Hello, dear conference audience at VentureWell Open 2017. I'm Juha Saukkonen from Finland, Europe, more specifically YAMK University of Applied Sciences. And on the other end, in the other end of the line, I've got entrepreneur who is making manufacturing readiness a business, Radu Diaconescu from Switzerland.
Hello.
Hello, Radu. Briefly to the audience, I know you and your company a bit, but now it's your opportunity to give kind of an elevator pitch. What are you doing and for whom and why?
So first of all, good afternoon, I suppose, to everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. So, a bit of background on us at SWE. So essentially, we are a startup that is trying to smoothen manufacturing for startups and for other companies. We've seen that manufacturing is it's too big of a problem than it should be. So the way we decided to approach the situation is to tackle specifically electronics manufacturing. And we have produced a technology that is able to sit on the factory floor, automates parts of the electronics manufacturing process, helping electronics manufacturers transition to a high mix environment, so producing in smaller batches so that they are able to service their customers better, and also creating kind of like a mega factory of the future. So you can see us as Uber for electronics.
What do you mean with mega factory? So a mega factory made of loads of small factories, or?
Yes, so the virtual factory, the virtual electronics factory of the future. So you can see us as Uber for electronics manufacturing. We use and we deploy our technology along several production lines from several factories in different geographies, and we connect that into the, let's say, virtual factory. And we also provide a direct link for the customers to the manufacturers.
Okay,
so we try to...
Just like people say that Uber is a platform company that connects. So you connect startups who've got great product ideas, but no resources to manufacture, or
exactly,
and also not that much knowledge about manufacturing that they could start sourcing.
Exactly, smoothing things up, and so the way we started is if you look at manufacturing and at electronics manufacturing, it doesn't add value. Right? Manufacturing should be easy. Manufacturing should be like printing a piece of paper. The main concept is what engineers design. Yeah. Right? That's where the value is. If anything, unfortunately nowadays manufacturing subtracts value from the product by adding problems, by adding costs, by adding quality issues, everything.
Where is that problem coming from? Is there something traditionally wrong, or has it become more complex?
Well, it's the way the industry is being built, especially in the electronics industry, right? It's quite difficult for a startup to move and to start manufacturing, because the way industry is being built is for accommodating large volumes.
Yeah.
For accommodating volumes of hundreds of thousands or of millions. So then if a startup that wants to build first round first round of prototypes and then thinking of expanding the operations, then they face a big problem, because a traditional manufacturer wouldn't even care about I don't know, 10,000 or 1,000 pieces. And then it's all the supply chain that you need to put up in place, and then there are a lot of uncertainties along the way, from the delivery issues to delays to customs to a whole array of problems that sometimes make manufacturing prohibitive for startups.
So are you saying that, for example, the paper we have been preparing together, which is still in the progress with Dansur and Sharon and so on, we talk about issues such as micro factories, smart manufacturing. Is it still kind of a niche that, yes, there are some, some symptoms of new type of manufacturing coming up, but it's not yet mainstream or not even big enough?
It's not yet mainstream, and the biggest challenge is that you have a gap between prototyping, proving a concept, and actually scaling up operations.
Yeah.
So there are lots of services, and there's also a lot of literature in fast prototyping, which is perfect, right? We need this. It's great. But on the other hand, after you finish with a prototype, you've produced, you've played a bit with Arduino, then you maybe produced even a 3D case for your product. Yeah. Everything works as you want. Then moving and scaling this and changing the way your product will look like into something that can be produced in larger volumes, then that's where the gap is. And that's where...
Yeah, and you cannot make sales revenue with the prototypes, and the big production batches are too big to get started with.
Exactly. And then there's, to answer your question, then I think that's the niche where smart factories and the smart electronics factory of the future needs to gap, because we need to somehow help companies and smoothen the transition from an initial batch, an initial prototyping batch to normal operations, right?
Okay. When you look back at your own engineering education, was there something that you kind of left missing, or was there something great that you would tell everybody that relates to your ability to now act as an expert on modern type of manufacturing? Do you feel the education is supporting the new era of manufacturing?
Well, it's strictly related to manufacturing. It's hard to tell, because there are two aspects to this discussion. One is the fact that mostly entrepreneurship educational is focused on software, especially in schools and in university, which is, again, it's great, because the advantage of building a software business is that you can prototype it fast and you can build something fast and cheap.
Yeah, and you can scale it up with no extra cost. Yeah.
Exactly. And the other side is that manufacturing knowledge usually is sometimes locked in big companies, right? So the manufacturing is not such a hot topic. Sometimes in universities you cover some topics like advanced manufacturing technologies, stuff like that, but dealing with the supply chain and everything, that's a challenge. And
but still,
however,
it is still pretty much on this kind of a big corporate context, mostly.
However, I was a bit lucky, because in my master's program, we had essentially two directions and ways to choose our courses. So one direction was, of course, entrepreneurship, and the other direction was related to supply chain and operations. So I had the chance to also take some courses related to supply chain, to operations, which greatly helps me to understand how the industry works a bit.
So you kind of a cherry picked something from entrepreneurship, something from the traditional supply chain and industrial engineering.
Exactly, because I think that the most important thing when you want to disrupt the industry is to know the status quo. You need to know what you are disrupting, and you need to know what you are dealing with. So I think that at least for me, that was quite important.
Yeah. Okay. So your customers, are they, as they are to a certain extent, of course, the customers are the startup companies who want to start producing something, and the other customer group are of course those ones who would supply them. But what is kind of a opportunity there? Can a startup company fully kind of outsource their manufacturing knowledge and manufacturing readiness knowledge to you, or what is kind of your role versus the entrepreneur's role? What should every entrepreneur understand of manufacturing to be able to deal with you?
Well, first of all, we try to help, and we try to help more the startups. So we also deal with other types of companies, but we try to help startups understand that every design choice that they make has an impact in production, in manufacturing. And even though choosing some components or choosing some very high-tech specs for a board might make sense in the prototyping run because you want to design something. But then moving to production, you really need to think about the costs, and you really need to think about how that will impact the quality. It's probably not the setting to get into too many technical details related to electronics, but frequently we see customers that come to us with some projects that have some technical specs that are extremely high tech. It's the equivalent of building a PCB board that goes into space, right? And then the application simply doesn't require it. It's simply.
If I got it right, you are saying that they kind of do the design work for too long before anybody says something about the manufacturability of that design.
Exactly. They don't actually take it into account.
You then walk back to the design quite often.
Yeah. We usually tell them, like, for example, a certain choice has this kind of impact on the price, and then sure, now you produce 10 boards, and for 10 boards, sure, you have the budget, or you produce 100 boards, and sure, you have the budget, but think of it when you are going to produce 100,000 of those. Think of how it will look like, and think of how the purchasing of the components will look like. Think of the supply chain. So that's kind of how we try to help them.
Okay, so you kind of say that in fact you should first, if in an optimal case, somebody or some people who know all the parts, the application and its usage by the final customers or end customers, the manufacturability and design, they should be developed together and not kind of sequentially step by step.
Yes. Unfortunately, the reality for most startups is, in theory, this is how it should be like, but unfortunately, the reality is different, because you try to build a prototype, you try to build a product to show it to investors, to clients, to whatever, and you simply don't have the manpower to do this. And we understand it. We are a startup, right? That's why we try to coach them and show them, okay, maybe you don't need that copper waste much. So.
Okay, Radu, I know the both of us, and we could continue talking over and over again and hours, but we need to continue the conference here in DC. So what is the plan for Sphere as a company? First of all, are you seeing competition? Are other companies trying to be the expert, trying to close the gap between the design, manufacturing, application, or, for example, in Europe or Switzerland? Are you still alone, and what is your own entrepreneurial plan to grow and develop?
So we see, of course, we see competition. We're not the only ones seeing this problem. However, the competition that we've seen is from isolated factories. So, for example, there's a factory that is doing either some redesign, or they are acquiring new technology to target this specific niche. However, how we try to be different is that we try to have partner manufacturers all around the world, so that ideally in some time we are able to service our customers locally, right? So if there's for example, currently we have most of our partner factories in Shenzhen, but we plan to actually expand into Europe, Switzerland, Germany, UK. So in the future, if you are, let's say, a customer from Germany or from Finland, we would be able to produce it at roughly the same costs, roughly the same time, same quality in Germany, or close to you if you're in the UK, and ship it faster. That's our goal, and that's how we differentiate.
So your competitive edge is that you don't have your own factory whose machine time you have to fill, so you don't have to force designs that would suit your production. You are kind of free to choose the design that is the best one to be manufactured wherever it will be manufactured.
Yes, we essentially leverage existing assets, not building our own assets.
Okay. You kind of already answered my last question. Will manufacturing return to Europe and US And if so, what kind of manufacturing?
Well, that's a very, very tricky question to answer in general, and it might be more related to politics than anything else. Currently, the way that especially the electronics industry, because that's what I know it better, it's extremely skewed towards Southeast Asia. So if you look at the distribution of electronics manufacturing, so you have, if I'm not mistaken, 82% of the world electronics production in Southeast Asia, so China, South Korea, Taiwan, and 46% in China alone. So claiming that manufacturing will return to Europe and the US, I think it's a bit far-fetched, at least right now, because you cannot simply dislocate 82% of world production from one year to another.
So we might, looking from European American point of view, we might see some, how would I say, positive moves towards returning, but the volumes and the big business will be still like it has been.
Most likely, yes. However, with the new shift and with automation, there is a chance to be somewhat competitive for some niches. So personally, I don't expect it to be widespread, but I expect to have certain niches in which production in Europe, US, or depending on also other countries, right, to make sense. For example, medical devices or other applications should somehow be localized.
Yeah. Thank you, Radu, for these ideas. You are busy. You have to start contacting your customers, and we have to continue here with our panel members and audience. So all the best. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yes. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.